Hello, good morning, and welcome to my cake kitchen. My name is Gladys, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate cake decorating easily. So, if we're meeting for the first time, hello there, pleasure to have you. And if you're catching me on replay, I hope this video is of some value to you. So, today I am doing something rather simple, but I have made earlier videos talking about edible print, wafer paper, icing sheets, and all sorts. Those videos are in the live resources, so you can check that out. If you check the homepage live, you should see some thumbnails referring to those photos, and I'll link some in the description box for you. And I did say I was going to come back and we can talk some more about wafer paper prints and icing sheets. So today I am doing something rather simple but with icing sheets, and I'll be talking through all of that. And what I'm doing is basically using edible printed sheets, logos for that matter, on fondant cut discs, which will be used as decorative toppers for cupcakes. Now, there are several ways you can do this. This is how I do these specific ones I will be showing you. I'll be talking you through the tools and stuff I'll be using to derive these. And hopefully, I'm not sure, the cupcakes are on such a limited time frame. Plus, there are some dietary requirements for those cakes as well. So they require my time and apt attention, which means I may not be able to produce those cupcakes on live format, even though I have done that in the past. But I am hoping that I can post some photos of the finished work when we're all done. There are some issues I have to also be um, wary of, like copyright and stuff like that. But customer has sent me the logos. They are for a UK based company, corporate cupcake orders, and I'm going to be deriving these. So I thought I might as well bring you along. So to make these cupcake toppers, you have some fondant first. Now you could make these toppers without the use of fondant at all, which is fine. You'll find some bakers will do that. There's a reason why I use fondant, and that is because fondant serves as a barrier. It sets hard and it gives the icing sheet a clean presentation on top of the cupcakes. I'll post photos of that. But I think if you go back to my community post and scroll down to previous posts, I have posted cupcakes that I have done over here and posted those. So you can find those as well. So today we are simply trying to create some edible toppers using icing sheets, which are going to be layered on fondant circle discs. I hope that makes sense. Besides the icing sheet, if you're in the chat there, hello there, Flavia. Flavia, good morning. I think my window is open. It's giving me a cold draft that I don't care for. Flavia, good morning. How are you? And if you're just joining me in the chat, hello there. I hope you can find some value in this video. Even if you're not a baker, hopefully this is an opportunity for you to see some baking related things. So yeah, the video about icing sheets and all sorts, I talked about edible printing, how I use my edible printer, and also made a cake that was used that had decorative elements using edible paper. All of that are on the live format. But for this cake, for these cupcakes, the toppers are here. I'm just gonna try and show you what the toppers are like. First of all, when you have your edible prints, you want to make sure that they are kept airtight and sealed, because exposure to your environment can lead to it being dry, especially for icing sheets. And if you want to understand the difference between icing sheets and wafer paper, I'll refer you back to the previous videos, some of which I will link in the description box. So these are the disc icing sheets that with the logos here. As you can see, there are two types of logos. These are for a client. So these logos are disc cut, and what I am going to be doing is placing them on fondant. I printed these with my own edible printer and cut them out using circle cutters. I will I'll post some of the materials for you to see. And just so you know, at the end of the video, I have a link to my Amazon shop front where I have organized a few of my baking favorites, decorative tools, including complete beginner basics that should help you pick up some things that can help you derive a cake easily. So you want to check the shop front over there. So these are the edible icing sheets. Icing sheets, in simplistic terms, are sugar elements, including glycerin and other ingredients that have been put together and created into sheet forms placed on a backing sheet, if you like. And wafer paper is a combination of starch. The difference is, I have spoken about all of that in detail in previous videos. I think in my mind, I am actually running on a tight time scale. So it seems like, yeah, I'm running on a tight time scale. So it is a bit difficult to kind of focus on that. But here you have the discs, and the difference between that and wafer paper, for instance. Okay, so this is what I've just cut that. Ignore that. This is what icing sheet looks like, and this is what a wafer paper print looks like. This is what a wafer paper print looks like. As you can see, one is thicker, one is lighter. Both are flexible, but the risk is that this wafer paper is really sensitive to moisture. So any introduction to moisture, or if it comes into contact with moisture, it will warp or shrink, whereas icing sheets are steadier and better. In terms of print quality, icing sheets actually icing sheets have a better print quality. As you can see, look at the wafer paper. It's because of its texture and look, it's not as bright, whereas if you look at the icing sheets, it's much brighter. But as you can see, because the icing sheets are on backing paper, they have ended up like sticky, so I have to work rather quickly. So much of the information I would love to give you, I might skim through quickly, and I would say do check our community page or other live videos concerning the subject matter. But before I do anything, I'm going to put them back. And if you're in the chat, there's Evelyn Ayim. Evelyn, hiya. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are. I'm stood here in my UK-based kitchen. I have quite a lot of work to do today, so I'm just going to be moving on quickly. Now, besides everything else, we have fondant here. I normally don't measure the quantity of fondant that I need, because whatever I do, the leftover fondant is going to be used for other decorative things. As in, I can use them to cover cake boards on which cakes are displayed. So measuring the fondant for accuracy in terms of the disc is not really important to me, but for you, I will probably be forced to measure it just to give you a guide of quantities of how much you need. So over here, I am trying to derive at least 60 toppers, but I have some extra to add to it. So in total, I'm aiming to get about 60 to 66 or 70. The 10 is just for flexibility, just in case something happens. I have replacement, because the process is so tedious that I don't want to get to the end of my task only to find out that maybe one broke or something happened and one warped, and I'm having to do it all over again. So we're starting with a quantity of fondant here. Now that is about that's about 290. I'm just going to go for about 500 grams here, only because I will need all of that, and the rest will keep. So actually, that's a bit more than 5. I'm actually going to go for a kilo of fondant, right? Yeah, there's a kilo of fondant here, and the kilo of fondant in terms of packs looks like this. These are just own brand, one from Aldi or Lidl, I think. This from Aldi, I believe. This is from Aldi UK, and you have the Tesco own brand. These are fondant elements that can be used for the disc, because essentially the discs themselves are not going to be eaten. They are edible, but the intention is not for them to be eaten. So I go for the own brand, which is okay. You can flavor them, but they are actually just serving as a barrier over which you can place your discs. So it makes it easy. Now into the kilo of fondant, I am going to add some Tylose powder. Tylose powder is what you call CMC, and it's a hardening agent that is added to fondant to help the fondant elements set hard. So there's a tablespoonful. The measurements here are just based on my own preferences. There's no specifics to it. For instance, if I wanted the fondant to set hard very quickly, I'll probably increase the amount, but just as a guide, for a kilo, I've added 2 tablespoonfuls of Tylose powder in it. And then into that, what I am going to do now is mix the Tylose powder with the fondant, right? So on my worktop, I should have a cornstarch, a bag of cornstarch or something, just to polish the top and make sure that the fondant does not stick to the. You want to make sure that you have a very clean surface as well, because white fondant tends to pick up elements from the surface on which one is working. So I'm just going to try and mix this together. So this is just fondant that I am kneading together, right? And you're doing that whilst also making sure that the bowl is just for the measurement. Normally I would put the Tylose right into the fondant on my worktop. So you can do this wearing gloves, but I am doing this with my hands because I'm not coloring the fondant. So with that, you want to make sure you knead the fondant. A kilo is quite a lot, and that is because I want to do this very quickly. So I am kneading this together, and the intention is you can cut the fondant into pieces if you have to, so that it makes it easier to knead. So we know there's a kilo of fondant with 2 tablespoonfuls of Tylose. Now you think you may have seen some fondant, some edible prints placed on a cupcake without the use of fondant. And that is okay. For me, I find that because the cupcakes are sometimes sort of kept chilled before collection, the icing sheets, more so than the wafer paper, in the directly on the cupcake, don't hold their form. And I think by preference, I just want them presented well. So this is a long process to undertake. And is it necessary? I don't know, but I like it that way because they present well, they sit better on the cupcakes, and it makes the design a little more polished and professional. So for a corporate client, the little extra task is worth it for me. But if you come across cake makers or cakes online where that hasn't been done, it's neither here nor there. And I think that is the word of caution I just want to get across. But there are some hard set pre-cut wafer papers that will sit on top of the cupcakes directly, except you also want to be careful with those, because when those also get into the fridge and come into contact with moisture, they can warp. So for me, the fondant disc is all about trying to keep form, really, and you will see when I'm done with the final thing. So the intention of the kneading was just to make sure that the Tylose powder or CMC is mixed into the fondant, which is what I have done now. So I'm going to wipe my wet surface again, and we're going to move on to rolling out the fondant. Now, if I had a fondant rolling machine, that would be amazing. But I don't have that. I have a fondant rolling pin, which I am going to use to derive this. So what I'm going to do is, there's really no method to this. The whole point of the task is to roll this out as thinly as possible. So that's what I am going to be doing, because the wider I can get this on my work surface, the more disc I can put across, and the easier my tasks will be, right? But whilst I am doing that, behind me, I will show you, there is a board on which the finished work is going to go. Rolling the fondant can be a little bit challenging because 2 tablespoonfuls of Tylose powder is a lot. So it has really firmed the fondant out, as I am finding out in real time. But if you don't like fondant, don't worry, this is not for a cake. Those people on the internet who just feel a bit weird about the use of fondant. If I was using this to cover a cake, it definitely won't have Tylose in it, because Tylose powder makes the cake set to... Oh, let me get my cup of tea here. This is a bit of an arm work, I'll tell you. And a few tips to do this. Like I said, if you have a fondant rolling machine, that will be great. The intention is also not to... Yes, it is. Is it Falak? Yes, it's fondant. If anyone has a suggestion on how I can roll fondant without doing the arm work, that would be great. But I'm forced to kind of do this as is. Now I feel like I should have probably divided the fondant, because I want it really thin. We don't want like heavy fondant on here. So I'm still rolling this so thin. I couldn't tell you how thin it is though, but maybe when I cut it, I will show you how thin it looks. So let's see, because sometimes the edges look thinner and then the inside, the edges look thinner and then the middle is really thick. So I have to roll from the middle out. It's neither here nor there. I think what I'll do is I will start, and then if I get to the middle and it's too thick, I will roll that out too. Yeah, I think I've got it for a reasonable amount. Right. And then the next thing, I have a smoother. So I'm going to put a smoother across this. Oh, okay. She was soaked in warm water. Falak is making a suggestion in the chat about how her sister rolls her fondant. I wonder, does she make her own fondant? Because if I put my smoother in water and I try to roll the fondant, it would be very sticky. I couldn't get the work done, but I'm curious about how she does that with water, right? That said, hi, lovely. Yes, you know what? You can also use a pasta machine. The issue is that I have only a small pasta machine that rolls just a thin amount for small decorative elements. As you can see, the size of this is really wide. Let's see how much I rolled it. Oh, that's about 20 inches wide. I talk about clumsy in the kitchen. Talk about being clumsy in the kitchen. I apologize for the distraction. That said, let's leave you here, right? So let's put that. Okay, let me put that back where it belongs. And right, so we are done here. So that's about 20 inches wide. So if I put that clearly in a pasta machine, that wouldn't work. So part of leaving the fondant here as is to let it dry, set a little bit, especially with the CMC. I did say CMC is a hardening agent, so it will let the fondant dry hard, and whilst that is happening, it will allow the edible prints to be set on it nicely. On top of that, a few things you want to get ready whilst, you know, undertaking this is a board. I use an extra board here, which I am going to dust off, and that will be the surface on which my fondant cut discs will be placed. You want to make sure that they don't end up sticking to the display surface on which they are placed, because if I don't optimize this or make it less sticky by using the cornstarch, if I put the fondant in, when I go to dry them, they might end up sticking to the board and it will be hard to pick them up easily. So the cornstarch just works on the surface to stop the fondant element sticking on there. Next, you want to make sure you have some cutters. These are some plastic cutters that I picked up a while ago. They come in different sorts of measurements. I couldn't tell you exactly what is what, but there's a pack of 6, and I go for the second smallest one. So there's a very small one, that is the last of it. Let's measure what that looks like, if I can. Where is it? Yeah. Okay. So I think that's about 2.5. Yeah, that's about 2.5 inches. I don't know that in centimeters. I don't know the measurement in centimeters. I sincerely apologize. I'm more an inches person. So with that said, the next thing we want is a medium through which we can stick our discs. And I'm going to be using piping gel. Piping gel is formulated in a way that makes it easy for the discs to attach to the surface without warping it. Because if I was to use water would either make the color bleed or make the edible prints rather sticky, which is not very helpful. So piping gel or edible glue. You can create your own edible glue. So what I'm doing is I'm just dabbing this on the surface area. You can make your own edible glue by adding Tylose or CMC. The CMC that was used to harden the fondant, you can just use that with warm water and leave it to set, and you have edible glue. So what I am doing is I am just dabbing the surface with a brush, because this is a soft brush and I don't want to leave imprints at all. I don't want to do that. So the next thing we want to do is now go and get our edible images. Whilst we're at it, if it's the first time you are seeing me and you're wondering what I am doing, I am making some edible toppers for corporate cupcakes. But I have already made videos talking about edible prints and their usage. So today is a good time to show you how I produce. When I place the toppers on, there's no really style to this. Now I realize that by dabbing the cupcakes, what I've done is I wouldn't be able to press these solidly into, I could though. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a little trick up my sleeves to do that. So because I have dabbed the icing, because I've dabbed the gel on top of the fondant, and now I have placed the logos. Naturally, I should have been able to make sure that the toppers stick into the cupcake, the fondant, and by dabbing the top, I probably wouldn't be able to achieve that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this sheet over, and I am going to use the fondant smoother to press, because you want to make sure that your they're pressed into it. And I am going to get myself a second sheet that goes back on there. That the second sheet just seals off the stickiness from the other sheet, right? And then I'm going to remove that. So we've done the first batch. We have 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We have 13 here. We'll leave that as it is setting. And then we're going to do another batch. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be dabbing the surface again. Limaya, hello, you're right. Limaya said she's from Cape Town. Limaya, how are you? Okay, there you are. Right. And then I am going to stick more on there. I think when I cut these, I cut them in a way that is drying them quickly. They are either getting sticky with each other or drying quickly. So against time to make sure I get the right results. See why I made some extra ones? Because, for instance, one of these is cracking. So I am just posting these. Right. Right. And right. So what I'm going to do again is find the non-sticky side of this and use that. Yep, another non-sticky side. Okay. This is now me doing the sticky side, and that is showing because I've ended up making this a little bit sticky, but that is fine. Right. Okay. When doing these things, you want to be careful that they are not exposed to water at all, because water will make everything sticky. So the earlier ones have set, so I'm going to go and cut them. It is such a boring thing to do, but there you go. I mean, when they are dry, you can see them better. So I'm just going to place that on here. Right. The challenge is to be able to get the logo centered right on the cutter. So if I am quiet, it means I'm trying to think. But otherwise, when I finish cutting, I'll show you what I'm doing. So essentially, I'm using the cleaner side of the cutting circle, and I place it right on the print. The print is not the cutter is essentially slightly larger. It over edges the print. So I can then gauge the center and then cut and pick. So there you are. Press down. If I were to use the crinkle edges over there, it will cut into the topper, as in the print, and I don't want that. And I actually also want the print to be very clean, if you like. So when I'm done, I will show you what the result is. So this is stuck in the middle there. Press down and left. And oh, back to how yeah, the thickness. This is how, let's see, the thickness of it is. It's not supposed to be too thick, but just enough that it can hold the topper. So there you have it. And then I am going back here. It's I would say it's quite a lot of work, but I would rather that for the best results. I need 60 of those. So imagine printing these on a sheet, cutting them individually, and then creating the toppers individually. I need 60, but I think I'm looking at creating about 70 of these. They are more like, if you have a look at it closely, they come out as if they are like biscuits. I'm talking biscuit, sugar cookies, if you like. Because after they've dried and set, they look like cookies with edible prints on top of them. Because this is too far from me, I can't seem to see the center, but there we are. And here we are. Yep. Now I wish there was a machine that could do this for me. Can you see why home bakers are sometimes a bit expensive? Can you imagine the time that is taken to derive all of this? I don't have a machine to do this, and everything is hand cut. So it can be awfully hard. Yeah. There you are. Okay. I think the first batch is over 20, so I only have to do these 3 times and we are done. Okay. So these are the parts over here. And yeah, now I'm going to do that side. Right. Whilst we're at it, let's arrange these. These are not dry. You can't use them whilst they are this tacky and sticky. I'm just organizing them so I can see. Right. So we have Okay, I've got 24 toppers here, which are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I need, right, and then we're going to do the next ones. I am just finding out something that I don't like very much, and I'm going to try and change it, which is that I don't like the fact that this icing sheets, when I place the, okay, when I dab the, when I dab the gel directly onto the fondant, I realized after cutting it, the part that is off center, like in the hanging side, looks very tacky, and I don't want that tackiness on there. So I am just attaching the I'm just using the thing, the gel directly on the labels, the logos directly. Okay, okay, that is done. I need my logos, the rest of them. Okay. Right. You want to be careful not to stick them together. I've made that mistake, and now I'm having to unstick them. Right. There you go. I think I like piping gel for this task because it's much easier to use them. Yeah, what I am going to do is keep sticking more on it. There you are. It's quite a boring thing to do, so, but it's nice to be here, just showing you what we get up to. That on there. And here. And that on there. Okay, so final one somewhere. What did I mean? Okay, I've run out of space. I accept defeat for that. Right. What I now want to do differently is just use the fondant roller to roll these sheets into the, okay, right, and employ a topper, a smoother, to smooth them out. And now cut these again. Look at me. Right. Right. Okay. 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 Right. So this is a set of the toppers here. Now, when you get these, you can leave them to set overnight, where because you've added gum tylose, they can set completely and dry. But I have a quick tip for drying these rather quickly. If you leave them in a fan assisted oven at 50 degrees C, oh, actually, don't do 50. Yeah, 30 to 50, depending on what your oven settings are, because you want the oven to be warm but not baking hot. So 30 to 50 degrees C is enough for 20 minutes. Take them out, leave them to cool, and you have fondant hard discs. So I'm going to set them in the oven whilst we're doing this, and then at the end of it, hopefully we should see them set and dry hard. I have another board here. That's a larger board. So I'm going to dust it yet again. This is wider. I just want to be done with this rather quickly. So yeah, there you have it. And I'm going to cut these again. The funny thing is that I will have to do this all over again for another client later, which is for Friday. So okay, so we've done that too, and there's a few more to go. So I am going to now roll this all over again and roll it out like we did before. At this point, the fondant has dried. You know what? I might as well put this in the microwave for a few minutes to soften the fondant up, and then we'll take it from there. Yep. Okay, so I've got it set now. We got it. I'm gonna have to work quickly because once you warm the fondant up, it dries hard. So I'm just working quickly so that this doesn't become a hazard for me. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Right, I've got it thin enough. So I am rolling that. Okay. And we are adding some more. We are adding some more toppers. Okay. Okay, there you have it. Another topper. Hello. Mr. B. There you go. Okay. Right. Just want to see how many more I have left. Let me see if I have some. Okay, I have a couple left, but yep, much of it is all out. So what I'm doing is doing exactly the same thing as before. Roll that over. Yep. And then we go to cut, center. Now, if I were to use wafer paper, I would apply the same techniques, but when drying them, I have to be careful. I will have to put a weight on the top just so that the wafer paper doesn't lift from the sides up. That's just a small detail, but like I said earlier, you can get wafer paper cuts. Hopefully the batch that are in the oven will be ready, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, so we are almost done, and there's only a handful of that left, and I need to put this back in the microwave to soften so we can make those. But for the batch that I already made, I did say that you want to make sure they set hard. So look, I can almost hold it firm compared to this that warps, right? I can hold it firm, but if I play with it now, I will end up tampering with it. So I'm going to leave them to set, but the first batch is done. So essentially, if you're in a pickle and you need to make toppers rather quickly and you haven't managed, this is a quick way to do it. Get them done. So moving on from these, I'll leave these to set hard and cold, because you can't put them as they are on cupcakes, they will melt the buttercream. So I'll leave this to set completely. Then I will brush the cornstarch off, use a steamer to steam them clean, and then set them on the cupcake that are frosted. So that is one way I kind of create these for cupcake decorations. If you don't have an oven or you can't make space for that, what you can do is you can leave your toppers on a countertop. You can leave them on a countertop somewhere, and they too will set, except they take longer. They take up to about 24 hours. But if you're not in a rush and you want to make these in advance, then why not? Yeah, so these are just simplistic ways you can bring designs, realistic designs to cupcakes.